Hello to all dear students and parents. Hope you all will be fine. Today we will study a poem from Oxford Reading Circle Book 8. The name of poem is In the Garden, written by Emily Elizabeth Dickinson. It's on page 54. This is Emily Elizabeth Dickinson, the poetess of poem In the Garden. Let's have a look at about the poet. Emily Dickinson. She was born in 1830 and died in 1886. She was born in a Puritan family. Her father was a famous lawyer. She received college education. She lived a simple life and kept single all her life. This means she never married. She enjoyed gardening and writing and tried to avoid visitors. Her lifestyle is similar with Jane Austen's. She wrote 1775 poems, but only 7 of them published in her lifetime. Before her death, she asked her sister to burn all her poems. However, her sister published those beautiful poems. Let's read the poem on page 54 in the garden. A bird came down the walk. He did not know I saw. He bit an angleworm in halves and ate the fellow raw. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass and then hopped sidewise to the wall to let a beetle pass. He glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all abroad. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head. Like one in danger cautious, I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rowed him softer home. Then oars divide the ocean, too silver for a scene, or butterflies off banks of noon leap plashless as they swim. Let's have a look at stanza 1, the poem I have read in front of you. Now we are going to have a look at stanza number 1. Before having a look on stanza 1, we are going to go through the new words, the vocabulary words with their meanings. Number 1, bit, which means a small piece or part. Number 2, angleworm, which means worm used as a bait for fishing. To catch the fish, we use worm, and that worm is called angleworm. Fellow in the poem means soul. Raw means uncooked. A bird came down the walk. He did not know I saw. He bit an angleworm in halves and ate the fellow raw. Explanation of stanza 1. Stanza 1 brings the bird into the picture. The poem introduces a bird from the wildlife to the readers. He comes down and sits on the surface of the ground without a second thought. He begins to eat an angleworm on which he survives. The poet is shocked to see this act of nature, which does not even let the bird cook his food. Also, the worm had absolutely no idea that it was about to die and become someone's food in a few seconds. However, it happens beyond its control. Let's go to stanza 2. Before reading the stanza 2 again, we are going to go through the vocabulary words. Number 1 is dew, that is the drops of water on grass, especially in the morning. Convenient means suitable. Sidewise means sideways. Beetle is insect. Let's read second stanza. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass and then hopped sidewise to the wall to let a beetle pass. Explanation of second stanza. Stanza 2 shows how the bird gets rid of his thirst after feasting on the worm. He finds a grass with dew and suffices his thirst by drinking the dew. Suffices means satisfies. But as soon as he sees a beetle, beetle is a kind of an insect, he lets it go without any disturbance. This means the bird first ate the worm, then the bird went to the grass, and on that grass the bird finds the dew. Dew means the drops of water which are specially found in the morning. It drank from the dew, and after drinking, when the bird saw a beetle passing by, the bird itself moves aside and gives the space to the beetle to pass. Stanza 3. Vocabulary words. Number 1 is glanced, which means hurried look. Number 2, rapid, which means fast. Number 3, abroad, which means in different directions. In the poem, it means in different directions. Number 4, beads, means round piece of glass or plastic that are specially used for embroidery. While we just do embroidery on our dresses, we use beads. Then stirred means quiver or tremble. It simply also means to shake. Number 6, velvet, which means soft. Let's read stanza 3. He glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all abroad. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head. Explanation of third stanza. Stanza 3 is another scene wherein the beetle look like frightening tiny beads to the poet. Even though they are allowed to pass safely by the big bird, they fear his presence. The beetle is afraid of the bird. But what the bird did, the bird simply took aside and then let the beetle pass. In the previous stanza we read about it. If the poet has used the example of a bird to describe death in this poem, it means that even if death allows you to live for a long period of time, you are still afraid of its presence because you know in the end it is beyond your control. This means the death is real, and someday, somehow, me and you has to die. So the beetle was afraid of the big bird, but even then the big bird, which means the life has given the chance to the beetle, and the beetle passed by safely. Stanza 4, the vocabulary words. Cautious, which means careful. Crumb, which means bread scraps. Unrolled means to open. Rowed means as moved a boat with an oar. Let's read stanza 4. Like one in danger, cautious, I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rowed him softer home. This is stanza 4. This is here something the poetess is doing. Stanza 4 brings the poet into the scene. She gets up from her chair. This means before stanza 4, the poetess was sitting behind and looking at the bird and the eating of the worm, and then the beetle was passing by, and then the bird drank the dew from the grass. This all was seen by the poetess, and now in the fourth stanza, the poetess herself is entering in the poem. So stanza 4 brings the poet into the scene. She gets up from her chair and offers a crumb. Crumb means a piece of bread, to the cautious bird that looks at her for a few moments. Cautious means the bird was very alert, that if somebody comes near to it, it goes to fly again. So the poetess got up from her chair and offers a crumb to the cautious bird that looks at her for a few moments. The bird looked at the poetess for a few moments, unrolls his feathers and flies away. After having a look at the poetess, the bird flew away. It has got nothing to do with what the poet has to offer to him, because the bird has already, we have seen, eaten the worm, and now the bird is no more hungry. The poetess is offering the bird the crumb, but the bird has nothing to do with it. For him, All that mattered was the raw food that he ate a while ago, and that raw food was the worm. The rawness attracts him, and that's what he survives on. Actually, it was the bird's habit that daily when the bird goes out to eat the food, it actually eats the raw food, that is the worm. And so when the bird got the cooked food, or you can say the cooked crumb, the bread scrap, the bird has nothing to do with it, because the bird has already satisfied its hunger. Stanza 5, the vocabulary words. Oars, that means a pole to row a boat. Seam, which means a line where two edges join. Leap means jump. Plashless means without a splash. Let's read stanza 5. Then oars divide the ocean, 2 silver for a seam. Our butterflies off banks of noon leap plashless as they swim. Explanation of 5th stanza. The last stanza is a continuation of the stanza 4. It is a description of how softly and elegantly the bird flies away as the poet moves forward to offer food to him. Just like the butterflies fly elegantly in the noon and the horizon is created by sewing the fabrics of ocean and sky, the gentleness of the bird's wings carries it back to his home. It means the bird flew away very elegantly, very lightly, just like the butterflies. The last stanza is the continuation. This means it is joining the 4th stanza. As the bird flew, because it just saw the poet coming towards him, but the offering of the food by the poet does not mean to the bird anymore. So like the light butterflies, elegantly the bird flew away. And the horizon is created by sewing the fabrics of ocean and sky. Horizon is the place where ocean and sky meets. The line when you see that the ocean and the sky are meeting there, they become one. The gentleness of the bird's wings carries it back to his home. This means without caring anymore for the crumb offered by the poet, the bird flew away with the help of its wings to his home. So, what is the main theme of the poem here? The poem In the Garden by Emily Dickinson carries the central theme of nature. It takes a moment between the speaker and the bird and magnifies their occurrence. It means we did not see the bird and the poet having spent a long time together, but we see a single moment. A single moment between the speaker and the bird, which magnifies their occurrence. The poem itself points to the theme of nature with the beauty God has kept in it. We can learn many life lessons through nature. It's very simple. We might be thinking that there is no any lesson in it, but we can find many lessons in the poem at a time. But I'm going to give you the theme, that is the theme of nature. In the nature we can see many things around us, like over here we are focusing the moment that occurred between the speaker, the poet and the bird. It was a very little time, but in that time the poet came to know that the bird was no more hungry anymore, and the bird was no more greedy to get more from the poetess or more from the speaker. But as soon as it saw the speaker coming towards the bird and offering the crumb, the bird flew away because it was no more hungry and it had no more greed. So the home task for this poem you are having is write all the vocabulary words with their meanings in your copy, the literature copy. And question number 2 is you have to write summary of the poem. Note for the students, do all the work in your literature copy from first till this lesson. Marks will be given for this work in your copy. Thank you and God bless you all.